The RG300X is ANBERNIC's latest handheld, one that quite obviously resembles the Game Boy Micro from 2005, and although it looks pretty cool, for some odd reason it doesn't feel like an ANBERNIC product. Here's our full review. First, let's talk about the design of the RG300X. It's much bigger than a Game Boy Micro. In fact, it's far closer to that of the RG351P, which is ANBERNIC's best handheld to date. The display comes in at 3 inches, and although it looks okay in broad daylight and sits very close to the screen, which I like, it's nothing special. This might be because I'm so used to using bigger screen nowadays, but a 3-inch display on a handheld that's this big just doesn't feel right. On the face you will find 4 action buttons, which have a cheap plastic feel. You have a decent D-pad which can be easily used for fighting games, 2 speaker grills on either side which do in fact get in the way of your hands, and then the signature start select buttons from the Game Boy Micro which have LEDs behind them to indicate battery status. Looks wise, it isn't too bad. If you're a fan of this micro design, then you'll love it. But I personally feel like this Famicom look has been overused and gives off a low quality vibe. Heck, just a couple of weeks ago, Powkiddy launched the Q20 Mini, which looks the same as this handheld. It's like everyone in China is losing innovation and are just chucking out the same things over and over again with little time spent on design. Let's move around the RG300X. On top you have some very shiny shoulder buttons which do feel great. They sit closely to the buttons which allow for quick pressing and are nicely placed for large hands. Between them you have 2 USB-C ports and a mini HDMI out. This is actually quite nice because many of the handhelds featured that have came out this year don't seem to have the HDMI port, so this could be a reason for some of you to pick it up if you like playing on your TV or display. Your power button is found on the right, your volume buttons on the left, then your TF card slots, reset button and headphone jack on the bottom. Then if you flip over to the back, you will see the high gloss shell that houses your device. The deep red does look very nice, but just be aware that the RG300X is an absolute fingerprint magnet. There's also a lot of text on the back which I know a lot of you aren't a fan of. Ergonomics wise, I found the RG300X to be quite pocket friendly. Due to the lack of the analog stick and the high gloss shell, this thing just slides into your pocket without any hesitation. But do remember though that this is a fairly large device, but out of all of ANBERNIC's handhelds, this has to be one of their most portable. In the hand, the device is somewhat comfortable. Due to the sharp corners, I found my fingers don't rest as comfortably compared to their older handhelds, but that's because they wanted to keep that micro look, which obviously comes with some disadvantages. I could still play for hours on end without it feeling too uncomfortable, it's just your index fingers that might feel the strain. Now moving over to the performance of the RG300X. I don't have a lot to say about it apart from the RG300X taking steps back instead of forward, which is very unlike ANBERNIC. This device is using an old 1GHz dual-core JZ4770 chip, which we saw in handhelds over 2 years ago, so it's as if ANBERNIC are wanting to use up all of their old chips while they can, and that alone is what makes the RG300X slightly disappointing. The firmware is also pretty basic, with a user interface that's outdated, bland, and certainly not fit for a $90 handheld. Yes, it can just about emulate PlayStation 1, it does Game Boy Advance, SNES, Mega Drive and so on, but so can a handheld for half the price that came out in 2018. I held ANBERNIC on such a high pedestal for so long, and this release really did surprise me. From a business perspective, I get it, but because it's such an average handheld, it really has brought down my overall opinions of the company in terms of quality. Now it's nothing drastic, I know this is like a one-off handheld, but this compared to their other handhelds like the RG351P and M, it just doesn't fit. But then I think to myself, what did I expect from the Chinese handheld market? They'll try and grab any penny they can and use a Famicom design in hopes to make just a few extra bucks. An average handheld like this should not be priced at $90 in 2021, especially when the RG351P, one of my favorite handhelds of all time, is priced just an extra $8. And that comes with a bigger screen, more power, an analog stick, and a far better design. Honestly, I'm just confused at who this handheld is aimed at. For now, all I can think of is those who love the Famicom handheld look. They like Game Boy Micros and have cash to burn. For those of you that do like it, the emulation is great up to PlayStation 1. Due to it being only dual core, there's no chance of getting Dreamcast or DS emulation out of this. But the older consoles perform perfectly with little hiccups. It's just PlayStation 1 where it gets a little bit ickledy-pickledy. Overall, I find the RG300X to be an overpriced average handheld with a very niche target audience in mind. This is a handheld to skip for sure. So there you have it guys, a quick review of the RG300X. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.